Are you recording? Are you
Welcome
recording now?
everybody. Welcome
Are you
everybody. It's
recording?
Yellow.
Are you recording now?
Welcome everybody.
Do you have to cut this now?
Welcome. No, I'm not cutting any of this. Welcome
Do
everybody
you
to
have?
Owner's Guide.
I told you there was a bad idea to invite Yellow, so
It
damn it.
was a great idea. Welcome in everybody to Bitcoiner's Guide, the show that we wish we would have had when we first started learning about Bitcoin. So we made it for you. We are here today. We got two guests. It's me and Marcus as always, and we have ReelRichard. Thanks for coming in, man. And Yellow for here. How's your trades going?
I'm not
What's
here.
up?
I'm just here to check out your fridge.
To check out our feed.
Fridge.
Oh, my fridge.
Fridge. Well, it's good to meet you guys. Good to be here and happy to talk Bitcoin.
Awesome. Marcus, how's that trade going of yours? Is it still going?
Trade's going the same as always. Yeah, excited for this one, man. It's always nice to have a fellow meme legend on the stream. And Yellow, nice to be here talking about meme legends. No, I'm looking forward to this one, guys.
Oh yeah. So I guess we wanted to just get people introduced to you, Richard. I think Marcus and I and Yellow have seen a lot of your videos. I remember a couple months ago, Sailor posted a video of yours, and we were like, "Dang, this guy's got some major skills." So we wanted to just chill and talk about Bitcoin, about everything going on with you, and just kind of get started into it. So I guess before we really get started, you know, is there anything about your background that you think kind of brought you to Bitcoin or brought you into the video meme game, or have you always kind of been have you always been a Bitcoiner-ish type of person?
I've always been a Bitcoiners type of person. I was typically just fiscally very conservative. But brought me into the whole meme game is I've been making music since I was like 11, 12. And then I just kept making music for a while I did YouTube videos back in like 2010, 2009 era, 2011. And then I stopped. And then I never stopped making music though. I kept making music and I just always it's just something I always did. And then I really caught the Bitcoin bug like deep hard in like 2018, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think, I don't know, I heard it on a podcast. Somebody said, just put stuff out. And then eventually 2020, 2021, I was like, let me make some videos again. I haven't made videos in a while. I still make music, so it's just a thing. And then I just put together a couple, like, I think the first one I put out again was like I did a Pump It Up remix. And then that just got me back into like the whole putting videos and content out.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. So you were used to making music, you said. Like, were you making music that would also go viral, or were you like producing stuff for other people? Or
It was like I was trying to do the whole YouTube grind. Like this is a while back, like 2010, 2011. And then I just quit because I got tired of making the music. Because at that time, my audience was mostly like 12, 13-year-olds. And I didn't want to make these same songs every week. And so I just stopped. But I still made music because this is the thing I've been doing since I was young. And uh, and now I get to do it to glorify Bitcoin and spread the message.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as far as it goes for just making videos and memes and stuff, that's normally, a lot of us memers, we don't make our own music. And I think that's something that we notice, like, hey, if you can remix your own stuff, how did you ever even get into making videos and music back in the day? You say you made music forever.
Yeah, since a little kid, I took choir, I did piano classes, I did all that type of stuff. But then I think around like at the end of high school, beginning of college, I just started making videos. I wanted to make short films. I did that, and I kept doing like just doing songs, and um, and then I just went on YouTube, and there's like just guides and tutorials on how to make videos and how to do it. And I was primarily self-taught. I just kept doing it over the
Do
years.
you, do you think your background, especially in an early age in music, helped you understand the mathematical nature of Bitcoin?
Well, you speak of that. I don't know if it's a joke or not, but yeah, music is very
I'm
technical and
not.
very
I'm not.
mathematical.
I'm not.
Okay,
I'm not.
okay. I was wondering, but yeah, music is very technical and mathematical, like frequencies and like just fundamentals and harmonics and all these things, especially with audio production in terms of like sound design and mixing. That stuff is very technical. And another
like,
thing with the music thing is, like my biggest inspiration was always Kanye. And so I used to go onto SoulSeek, which was like I think a torrent site or whatever back in the day. And people would see these rare records. They would see these records, and it was all peer to peer. It was all we're just connecting to each other's computers, downloading records from each other, and that was just a way we would spread samples. And so, yeah, in a way, the music thing was very like I guess Bitcoinerish.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
awesome.
just
So would you go
go
as
ahead.
far as to say as you would call it engineering, like music engineering?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, for sure. And we used to share plugins too, because I was like 15, 14 when I started this. And some of these plugins you can't afford. And so like, and we would share it through torrents and seeding and all this stuff. And yeah, it's very technical. And I guess that's like the whole like Bitcoin aspect of it, where we're just spreading information. Everything is open source, kind of, even though it's illegal or whatever. But that's just how we did it when we first started, because we could afford these things.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Do you remember like the first time you really found Bitcoin, and like did you immediately like download like a node, or was it just like no, it was more price and I went to an exchange? Or
It was after the music thing, I kind of just stopped doing it, and I went to the military. And then I had a friend who told me about all these shit coins. This is like early 2017. And so I just bought a bunch of shit coins because we were trading like weed stocks, OTC. We were trading biotech stocks. And eventually he's talked about trading Bitcoin. Yeah, and he's like trading Bitcoin. And this is before there was, and like you could just get a Bittrex account just with some random any email. It didn't matter. This is like a while back. And so kind of traded shit coins. But when I really got into it was probably mid 2018, early 2019. Like just going down Andreas Antonopoulos videos, going to meetups too. Meetups really solidified everything for me. And then reading the Bitcoin Standard was like the icing on the cake.
What was it specifically about the meetups that, because I love going to meetups too, right? Like when I'm back in the States, I go to a lot of meetups. I've actually gone to a meetup out here in Madrid. I've gone to a meetup in France. So it's fun. But what specifically for you that kind of helps solidify everything?
Well, at the time in 2018, like I didn't know only people I followed was like on Reddit. It was like r/cryptocurrency or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was just like a bunch of shitcoiners. This is like 2018.
That's
it's
a
bad.
cesspool, right?
I know, but this is what I knew. This is how I got into it, right?
Yeah.
And then at the time I was in Seattle area, and I would go to these meetups, and then you're in a crowd of like, and this is 2017, so these meetups were big. There's like 150 people, but in that crowd of a whole bunch of noise, you would find like one or two people, and that said something that kind of made sense, other than just making money, like beyond the whole trading. Because I came in it from like a trading background.
Yeah.
And then after I did that a couple of times, I'm like, okay, these guys got some knowledge. And then they would share with me Andreas videos. And then that just kept me going. And then that led me to here.
I had that thought the other day when I was thinking who produced like content that orange pilled the most people and did it with a respectable and like purely scientific way. And whatever you want to say about Andreas,
Plan B.
Sorry, dude. Andreas was the fucking goat, man. Back then,
he's the orange pill. Yeah, he orange pills the orange pillars, man. He's like
he orange pilled like a whole, not one generation, but like I think 3 generations of Bitcoin. Like the guy. Thank God we have Ben now, but like back then it was Andreas and only Andreas.
Yeah.
Who do we have now? Ben?
Yeah.
The Bens, all of them, all the Bens. There's a lot of them. So did you ever get into trading Feathercoin? That's what Yellow.
Come on, damn it.
Why, you guys are holding Feathercoin? No, I'm kidding. No, I never did.
Yellow, let's just say
Yellow fun of me.
Yellow went down a Feathercoin mining phase back in, I don't know, 2015 maybe.
Well, here's a funny one. When I got in, my brother was in. I had one of my brothers was in too, and at the time he was in a BitConnect and all the same things as BitConnect. This dude lost a lot of Bitcoin doing this shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, he did all the lending shit, and I was just like, oh man. And even then, I didn't know anything. I knew that shit was a scam.
So is your family, like, is that brother? Are they Bitcoiners now, or?
Oh yeah, we're all orange pilled, and we are stacking sats, like humbly stacking sats. Yeah.
That must be pretty nice to have family members that did they get orange pilled at the same time as you, or how did that work out?
You know, they always stack sats because they believe me, and they just listen. But then, like, I think 2020, you know, the pandemic hit, and then like
Yeah.
all the videos of like $6 trillion. I remember the scene. One of my other brothers, he looked at me. He's like, "What does that mean?" Like
Yeah.
he's looking at the screen. He's like, "What does that mean?" Like literally, that was the exact like phrase, and I was like, exactly. And then over time, it just, you know, it just converts them. They just see it.
So all right. So it sounds like you're the next Andreas Antonopoulos over here. Orange
Nah,
orange pill and
maybe.
You said you came in from trading, right? Does that mean like you like stopped trading altogether now? Is it like, are you like a full holy Bitcoin maximalist?
Holy Bitcoin.
Or
Yeah, I really don't trade anymore
what
just
do you
because
what do you make of the whole scene? You know, like there's like this whole infighting going on between Bitcoin maximalists and you got the ETH heads and all the other shitcoiners.
what do I make of that whole thing? I don't know. It's just a lot of it is like noise, to be honest. Like I'm assuming a majority of Bitcoiners aren't on Bitcoin Twitter. And when I say Bitcoiners, I mean people who own Bitcoin or people who find Bitcoin useful in their lives. And so like I talked about my brothers, they just humbly stack sats, but they're not like out there putting their names or their work out on Bitcoin Twitter. They just work, they save in Bitcoin. And so like, but the whole trading scene, like, man, people do what they want to do. I don't. It doesn't bother me. Just don't shill scams. Don't shill whatever. If you're just trading on your own time, then do it. You know.
Yeah, makes sense.
it is interesting to think about, because sometimes when you're on Bitcoin Twitter, you get in this mindset of like, oh, all the Bitcoiners are here. But it's a really good point that there's quite a few people, and there's probably more Bitcoiners out there that aren't on Bitcoin Twitter than are. If you think like if you talk about people just all around the world. And so, it really makes you think sometimes we get in this like bubble of how we should act with our Bitcoin or what we should do with it. But it's the greatest thing about Bitcoin is that it is decentralized. There's no leader, Bitcoin. It's for anyone to opt in if they want to. And if they don't want to, they don't have to opt in, which it's just this total freedom of choice.
Yeah. I'm curious though, Richard, when you make your Bitcoin music and your Bitcoin content, I have a couple of questions about that because when I look at it, it seems, especially like your graphics are really well made. You know, it's like, do you use like AI tools for that? And my second question would be like, who's your audience when you're making this stuff? Like, who are you making it for? Are you making it for yourself? Do you have like a certain target audience in mind when you're making this stuff, or do you have a certain goal in mind? I'm always fascinated because when I make memes, it's usually how I feel or what I see happening on Bitcoin Twitter. You know, it's a little bit like a timeline of events for me, and it's just like a creative way of just putting my. So I'm not really making it for. Yeah, in a sense, you do kind of make it a little bit for like people on Twitter, right? Because that's where you're gonna release it.
Yeah.
But I think mainly for me, it's like, okay, this is just what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, and when I always envision myself like 5 or 10 years out in the future, and then looking back at like the memes I made as a sort of like, oh yeah, this all happened, But I don't know if that's how you go about it, or maybe you have a different vision, or what you think about when you make your stuff.
Well, I'll answer the first part first. Like, I just use After Effects for everything for the most part, and I do use some AI tools for the visual stuff, but not a lot. It's like I'll download like I really think the Stable Diffusion stuff is pretty cool. How they morph through the pictures, but I don't use the majority of it is just clips I download off Twitter and Vimeo, and then all the typography and the words and stuff. I just go to YouTube tutorials on how to make things look cool or whatever, like this tutorial, and then I just follow it and I just do it, and then I just put it on top of each other.
Really?
So that
Okay, so
yeah,
you also just clip stuff from other people's content, basically.
yeah, I just clip it because pretty much everything I create other than the source clips, like I don't know how to do those 3D graphics or I don't record those things, but for the most part, that's just how I go about it. And in terms of my intended audience and like how do I think about like coming up with these ideas, like I bet you, like all of us here we're Bitcoiners, so when we go through life and something happens, and I always relate things back to Bitcoin. And so whatever, like I want to make a topic on like separation of money and state, or maybe a topic of like hodling Bitcoin, or some type of economic like perspective and whatnot. I try to interpret how I see it, and then I write a song, and then eventually I find clips that relate to it. And like one thing I like to do is I like to like in my songs, that when I talk about fiat or Bitcoin, I like to think of it as in characters. And so sometimes these ideas for me, they just come up like sporadically, and I get stuck on them, and I'll just start creating whatever it is I'm creating. And then the intended honest is mostly for myself and these ideas I have about Bitcoin, and how I want to like visualize Bitcoin. And that's just how I put it out there.
You know something, you mentioned the characters, right, for Bitcoin and fiat, which I've had this idea for like the past 2 years, and I can't execute on it, which is, so I mean, obviously I know you're familiar with Kanye West. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with Lupe Fiasco, right?
Oh, yeah, I love Lupe.
I love Lupe. He had an album back in like 2008, I think, that was called The Cool. And
They're Cool is a classic
album.
Food and Liquor and The Cool. Food and Liquor and The Cool.
Food and Liquor and The Cool were absolutely amazing.
Classic.
I bumped them all the time at high school and at the beginning of college.
I still do it here now.
Love the
I sidetracked you. What was the execution idea that you're struggling with?
So on The Cool, he had characters. I don't know how deep you got into his albums, but he had characters in The Cool. One was called The Game, one was called The Streets, and he had a third one. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but he had like different characters that he would personify in his songs.
Yeah.
And so throughout the whole album, he would talk about, you would even have a song called The Game. He had a song called The Streets, I think. And I think he had another one was called The Cool. Like another one was called The Cool, was one of his characters. And so if you didn't know it, it just sounded like songs all together. But if you knew he had characters, then it was intertwined into his songs. And so this idea that I had was like make a series of video memes for like, I've had this idea for like the past year and a half or 2 years based off of that idea from Lupe, which would be like, okay, I have these characters and they'll develop throughout my videos, but I just can't, it's so much work and it's very hard to execute upon. And now I'm just saying, just, if you ever, I think it would be a cool idea, like, because you have these ideas already. You already have the Bitcoin character, you have fiat as a character in your mind. It would be kind of cool to see someone, and you don't have to do it. All right. I understand. Yeah, and people ask me all the time to make memes. I ask Yellow to make memes or Marcus, right? But it's just kind of like an idea that I've always had, that if anyone wants to do it, I think they definitely
do it. Richard, don't do it. It's very tiresome.
I love the fact that you're thinking about it in characters, because I've been thinking about like the Bitcoin as an organism, and like to me, hash rate is like the weight of Bitcoin, or this character or this organism. And I've been working on this. I finished it not too long ago, but it's called the Anatomy of Bitcoin. I did it with the assistance of this guy named Pedro. He's been working on Anatomy of Bitcoin, but it's to visualize Bitcoin and what it means to be in cyberspace. And I've been taking his concepts and his clips and his videos, and I've just been trying to create songs out of them. And like I have a song called The Timekeeper, where I'm trying to personify the difficulty adjustment as like this governor in Bitcoin who like sets the how we keep time, or the what regulates I guess this space we live in Bitcoin. And so yeah, I really like that concept of personifying like very technical things about something pretty nerdy,
Yeah, because it is cool, because like back then I was so into it, and it's like, oh, I'm trying to understand every little meaning that Lupe is making about these characters that he just kind of made up on his own, right? About the game, about the streets, and how he how he takes those things from his life and makes them into real life, right? And it would be interesting to see how someone could break down, like what you're saying, like if you could break down the difficulty adjustment in a song personified, like, and then it catches on. It's kind of cool to think, maybe there's kids out there who might catch on to that song, and because of that song, now they want to learn more about certain parts,
Bitcoin.
certain aspects of Bitcoin or Bitcoin itself, you know? So it's kind of just an interesting way how all those things can intertwine.
Yeah, I had another one too where I was like, UTXOs are like individuals, you know, and whenever we send a UTXO, they get destroyed and then recreated. And I was like, this is reincarnation. And so like these UTXOs are living many, many lives. And I have a song on the album that I recently released called UTXO, where this is through AI. I did Morgan Freeman as like a narrator at the beginning. Sounds like a meditative song. And then it goes into like a more electronic like poppy EDM type song. But it was yeah, that was like the theory of I was just trying to personify these very technical aspects of Bitcoin. And for me, a UTXO was just a person, and these satoshis within that a UTXO carries, those are like the cells or the DNA within that individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I never looked at it that way. I love the creativity, man. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
What I also imagine is like it's kind of taking me back to when I was like doing the deep dive myself. So you come into Bitcoin and first it's like, okay, blockchain, and you start learning a little bit like what's mining, what are they doing, and then you learn about the difficulty, and then you realize, whoa, like this whole thing is like put together so smart, you know, and so works. And then you have like these moments where your mind was just like blown, and like I remember I'd walk around the house like with a big smile on my face, you know, because I just figured like figured out how this thing works, you know. And then I can only imagine like if you figure this thing out, like if you're in that phase of your journey, and then all of a sudden you're watching this ReelRichard video where this guy is like, you're like, whoa, this guy is deep, you know. He's like he's already seen it, you know. So that's what I'm imagining when you're saying that. That's pretty good. Any thoughts there, Yellow?
Nice.
No, yeah. So are you making these songs? Like, does every song have a video with it, or are you making albums and songs you just release on Spotify or certain things like that?
Lately, I've been well, not every song has an album because a video, because it takes a lot of time to. I write more songs than I do videos, and then like with the video production stuff, I'm trying to catch up to my songwriting abilities, and so like I'm learning. Like even in the past 2 years, just doing this Bitcoin video stuff, I've just been learning a lot how to make videos. But I do write these albums. Lately, I just have a concept or a theme where like the whole Bitcoin Anatomy of Bitcoin album that I did was like I just wanted to do these 9 songs where we personify different parts of Bitcoin, and then that has like a very like aesthetic to it. Like it's very like that album is very cinematic and very like electronic, not too hip hoppy or whatever. And then sometimes the meme songs, I just make up whatever I come up with, whatever I want to come up with. And then like lately, I've just been on like a drum and bass kick where I'm just doing these very electronic, very hard hitting. And I haven't released any of that stuff yet, but I'm still working on it. But yeah.
Where do you where do you release your songs?
Mostly on my YouTube channel, on Twitter, and then lately I've been using Wavelake. I've been using Wavelake since the alpha. I've been using Wavelake and posting it there. Been getting some sats tips here and there. And Wavelake is just like a music player, music discovery app where they allow tipping on Lightning. And then and lately I've been posting on Nostr as well. So
how have you been liking Nostr? Have you been getting more? Have you noticed like a uptick in zaps when you post?
For sure, content? a lot more. And I like the fact that it's so interoperable. Like you could post a YouTube link, or you could you know, embed like a video and then get zapped. And to me, this is only the beginning. I could see clients, especially with how everything's so interoperable, and sending a zap is like hitting a like, but you could be hitting a like or a zap from like a Facebook looking like client to somebody on Twitter. It's like there's no barrier, you know what I mean? And I can only imagine when things get like embedded, where like your main consumption might just a podcast might just be your Nostr client, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And where you consume a lot of other things too, and then the rails for payment is just right there. And at first, I didn't see how this whole Lightning thing was going to work with this content, because I've been using Wavelake for a while. But once Nostr came out, it really clicked in my head as to how this information and this media is gonna transmit.
Yeah,
we were talking about that earlier with Sean. It's like Twitter already had tips enabled, right? So you were able to like tip each other with Bitcoin or with Lightning if you wanted to, but nobody was using it. And then Nostr comes out and they put the zaps right next to the likes, and now everybody's sapping each other. So sometimes it's like these really small little, or am I missing something?
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. And to tip somebody on Twitter, you had to do like you couldn't see it within the post. You couldn't say, "Man, I really like this post. Let me hit you with the lightning bolt." I think you had to do
Put a
go to the
profile.
profile,
Exactly.
copy some invoice, and it was just it was a burden.
Yeah. Talking about that, and it's completely sidestepping the conversation, but the news came out today that Twitter is going to integrate like eToro trading and shitcoins and Bitcoin all through Twitter or something. Did you guys hear that?
I didn't see that.
eToro trading.
eToro trading.
Wait, you can do buy sells straight from the your timeline? I don't know.
I don't know how they're going to implement it, but what I do know is that like eToro doesn't allow you to like hold your own Bitcoin, right? So, or only after like a lockup period or something. So I don't know why. Anyway,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anders knows for sure. I don't know.
Yeah, Anders would know.
Yeah, Anders. Yeah. He was a top one followed trader for a long time back in 2019, 2020, something like that.
He had a lot of copiers, people that would copy his trade, which was Bitcoin only. But
he was outperforming everybody just holding Bitcoin, so he was getting like a lot of copiers. It was pretty smart marketing from him. And then obviously, like after the bear market hit, he wasn't like the number one performing portfolio anymore in that short period of time. So then he lost a lot of copiers. I'm not sure if he's still on eToro now, to be honest. But
and so Twitter wants to like put a Robinhood inside of Twitter. Man, honestly, I think that's gonna catch on, to be honest. But I won't use it. Like,
definitely,
especially with all the FinTwit spaces and all like the midwit macro talk, dude, that shit's hella gonna catch on.
Yeah, to me, it just seems again like okay, it's the game seems to be like whoever can capture the most. Just like with Robinhood, remember, if you have a bunch of users trading on your platform, then what they did is they kind of like sell that data, right? All the order book information, all people's, people will put like sell orders in and buy orders. So they can see what like your stop positions are or when you're going to buy, when you're going to sell. And they would like sell that to the parent company, right? So in the end, you're still like being the product. So I don't know. I don't mess with that stuff.
It's ironic though. After all those years, it is ironic that after all those years, like a whole communities around different projects formed on Twitter, and it all started with a bunch of degenerate traders, basically. That's how crypto Twitter started, and then Bitcoin Twitter was created out of that. And now we're like back at the beginning, like the same platform is like, okay, you want that? eToro for everybody.
So I think I'm thinking about doing a little mining in Feathercoin then, Yellow, if we're gonna go back to square one.
No, never again.
I don't know. And then you also have like Elon Musk, right? Like he just put the Doge logo there. He removed it again. But you see like this massive pump in Doge. And he's like the master of like creating these like short-term pumps, right? And I'm always
not
like,
fraud? Is that not fraud?
Oh, he's been sued by the SEC or investigated a bunch of times, right? For these kind of because he also did it with Tesla. And then of all people, like Elon Musk is gonna like integrate eToro, stock trading, and crypto trading. I can imagine like the playground that's gonna be for him. I mean, just moving stuff around or making it more prominent on a platform like Twitter. You're kind of like just driving. You can pretty much predict which stock is gonna go up. So to me, it just seems like the best tool for market manipulation. So I could see why they would want to do it. I don't know why anybody would be excited about using that product.
Richard, do you consider yourself a memer or in general like creator?
Is there a difference? I don't know if there's a difference.
Do you categorize? How do you categorize yourself? Yeah,
I consider myself a music producer first. Before anything, I just music producer and then Bitcoiner. And if some of my songs, they are memes though. because I do like encapsulating a lot of the memes you guys put out or anybody puts out, and I just find it powerful too because if you, like when you think of these ideas and you're creating a meme, you gotta like distill it down into like something simple, something funny, something catchy, and then I kind of like the Twitter algorithm where I only get 2 minutes too, because I could it makes me shorten everything up too instead of just elongating everything and trying to explain all this stuff where you just explain in a couple words in a
Yes.
couple of like pictures, and it makes you distill and get better at refining the message. So I guess I would sometimes I'm a memer, but before that I'm a music producer, I guess.
Okay. Nice.
What about you, Yellow? How do you categorize yourself?
I don't know, man. I'm weird. I'm a niche.
And some of the shit you make is funny. So
No, yeah.
Go back to the sea, everybody.
Go back to the sea.
Yellow is longing for the sea. Like literally, dude. Like, tell me this though, Yellow. Like, you've been going for how many days now? Don't Stop Believing.
Oh,
Is it like? Do you
It's
know?
like
roughly?
522 something.
Like 522. That's not what you were planning, right? When you
Of
started.
course, obviously, no.
Plan B said we were hitting
Wait.
100K in 2020, December 2021.
Yeah. Were you following Plan B's floor model?
No.
Okay, let me ask you guys another question. Before the next halving, do we hit an all-time high in the exchange rate? Before the yeah.
Not in US dollars. Not in US dollars.
Okay.
We're already at an all-time high in Argentine pesos.
Okay. I was just wondering because every meetup I've been going, I've been asking this. Because ever
Yeah.
since Balaji did his whole $1 million thing,
No.
he's just trying to get
That's not where
attention. I
I'm
don't
at.
know.
No.
But I was just wondering,
thing is-
like,
But hey,
Go ahead.
Marcus has a theory on this. Yeah. Go
What
ahead,
is it?
Marcus.
Yeah, no, well, not look. If one thing I've learned from the last cycle is not to make predictions anymore, right? But like I also love making predictions, so I'll do it anyway. And we were talking about this earlier, and I put a tweet out too. It's like everybody's talking now about the Federal Reserve and money printing and the pivot, and when are we going to switch from quantitative tightening, to adding more assets on the balance sheets, and when the money printing go burst so we could run again. But if you actually look what happened last cycle, is everybody was following Plan B, right? Like stock to flow, everybody's like shitting on it now, but everybody was in on stock to flow, and everybody had red dots in their profile handle. I don't know if you remember, right? Like 3 red dots, and it was like going like clockwork until it didn't, right? And he upped to stock to flow X, and then he came out with his floor model, and it just got destroyed. And we had like this whole money printing thing from 2020 going on. So everybody was like, okay, so this money printing was driving this bull run. But if you overlay, I keep seeing these charts where people overlay these 3 cycles over each other. And it's actually scary that like the number of days since the halving seems to predict exactly where the price is. If you overlay those 3 cycles and you look at those 3 graphs, like they're not exact the same, but they definitely rhyme. And I would say if you put a correlation on it, it should be a correlation of about 60, 70%, which is really high. Now, if I'm going to make a correlation with the Federal Reserve, it's probably going to be like 0.1 or lower. So I'm thinking like, did we all just like dump Plan B and now we're all like following like the Jerome Powell god? Is he like the biggest predictor of the Bitcoin price now? I think that's bullshit. Actually, if you just look at the cycles, they just seem to be the best predictor there are. And then based off of that, I would think we're going to be between 30 and 50,000, maybe even between 60,000. I don't know, but I don't think we're going to see an all-time high before the halving. And we're going to be bouncing around between 30 and 50K, and only like 6 months to 12 months after the halving, we're going to rip up. And then I don't know where we're going to end up.
So in case you didn't catch everything you said, he's just saying it doesn't matter what's going on, whether there's quantitative tightening or easing, whatever's going on, Bitcoin's just going to keep doing its thing like it's always done.
TikTok next block.
Yeah. It's going to follow those same cycles. Which
So
is,
basically, what you're saying, Marcus, is I should sell my house, buy Bitcoin.
That's definitely not what I'm saying because I don't know your situation. But anyway,
Okay.
yeah, Richard,
I'm selling everything.
Sell everything, Yellow. Sell it
Were you
all.
buying into the Bellagii a million in
No,
90 days?
I was just asking because basically my question is this time different? I've been asking like every time I've been gathering with Bitcoiners, I'm asking just random different people like, are we do we hit an all-time high before the halving? And then I just want to gauge the sentiment, and I would say pretty much everybody's been giving the same answer you have, Marcus. They're just saying like, this is Bitcoin. We're just slow until the halving, and then we pump. But I don't know. We'll see. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I haven't made up my mind. I've just been just asking that question to survey people's sentiment.
There is
To me,
like hope.
there's so much. Sorry, go ahead, Sean.
I was just gonna say, I mean, we all do say gradually, then suddenly. So like, I guess eventually the suddenly would have to come, but I don't think that the settling comes until I think how it's gonna play out something like the suddenly will come when we'll have like a bull market, and then the dollar will like go through this hyperinflation at the same time. I don't know which bull market that'll happen in, but then everyone will blame Bitcoin for the hyperinflation of the dollar. It'll just be this thing where, oh, if Bitcoin wasn't here, then that would have never happened, right? It's just, which could be true.
I blame you.
Good. Keep blaming.
I know the memes are gonna be like lit though when we break all-time highs again. It's like you can say what you want. It's like they just inspire you to want to make more memes. Like during the bear market, it's like, I'm not in the mood. Once you get like that, I don't know if that's true for you guys too. I think so because I mean the memes just explode when the sentiments explode. So.
The energy is just high energy. I mean, I remember last bull market, there was like 7 days in a row, you're just like up $1,000 every single day. And how much Bitcoin you have, you're like, dude.
I remember going into the end of 2020 to 2021, it was like, oh, okay, December 25th, 25, December 26th, 26.
Yes,
okay,
yes,
this is how
exactly.
it is, right? December 27th, yeah. Okay, we 27K. I'm like, and if it didn't pump 1,000, you're like disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, oh, it'll just keep pumping 1,000 every day.
Yeah, it really went like that. Every day 1,000, and then by February 16th we hit 50K. So it kept track for quite a while. That was wild.
Yeah, that was.
Remember that?
What is it, Ganache?
Salvatore Ganache.
Yeah.
I did a remix to that one too. Yeah,
we all did.
I know, man.
Labra. Ganache reminds me of Labra, of anyone.
Yeah. I also I still get like a good feeling when I see the guy going like, oh, get the fuck out of bed, bitch, go.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that
one. And then especially when they made that video where he's like, and then they have this meme of this NPC lying in bed like with his angry face, shut up.
Oh yeah. And outside his window they were partying and said, yeah,
exactly. Oh man,
the memes are insane. And
let me, since we're doing predictions anyway, and like I said, Richard, these conversations go all over the place, but maybe you could do a little prediction as well. If you said you got in like really heavy 2018, 2019, I think 2019 was the year of Plan B because he came out with a stock to flow model. Everybody was talking that. Then 2020 was the year that Sailor all of a sudden came out of nowhere, and they're like, oh my God, like companies are putting it on their balance sheet, and
that was
after
great.
Sailor, all these companies, and he just kept buying and buying, and then I think back then we were thinking about nation state adoption, but that was like 2040, 2035, but then 2021 turned out to be the year of Najib Bukele, El Salvador, that went crazy. 2022 I find hard because it was a bear market. There wasn't really one hero. It ended with like the FTX collapse and like Luna
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So I would say that was the
2022,
year.
the year of the scams. Year of the scams.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. So what is going to happen this year? Because without fail, every year in Bitcoin,
Mm.
out of nowhere, something's going to show up and everybody's going to be like, is this the year that like Apple just comes out and says, you know, like, all right, we're transferring our $70 trillion in USD into a Bitcoin standard.
Brilliant.
72.
Or they just come out, instead of Apple Pay, we're just going to introduce Lightning because Apple Pay doesn't make sense or something. Yeah, like what would you guys, what do you see?
I don't know if it's gonna be this year, but I do imagine like I think these cash apps, these Venmos, and I think all these apps like these neobanks, they become lightning services. I think next year, if I had to guess something far out, right? I remember Andreas talked about this back when he talked about infrastructure inversion. When out of nowhere, people these landlines were using the internet, you know, and before you knew it, like everybody was just using the internet. And so like if we're increasing the era of lack of trust, even Western banks are failing, SVB and all these things, maybe to survive, these neobanks adopt something that they could transfer and gain more customers at lower cost. Maybe I don't know if it's going to be this year, hopefully this year, but I don't know, maybe next year. But I can imagine these companies just becoming Bitcoin companies through like Lightning, and maybe it's through the neobanks like Cash App, Venmos, PayPal's, whatever. And there's a lot of other small ones that people use, Chime. So what if this is the beginning of the what do you call it? The inversion of the infrastructure. I don't know. That if I had to guess, that'd be my far out guess. These companies become Lightning companies.
I remember that video. He was talking
Yeah,
about
right?
how the early edges in internet like transition from closed up intranets that every company had to basically the internet, because they figured out like if we open our system, like it's gonna provide much more traffic, basically information,
Yeah,
which
like
means
network
money.
effects, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So why not open it up? So yeah, something similar will definitely happen, but especially around Lightning Network, I feel like we gotta resolve custodial issue. Like the
Yeah,
custodial
yeah.
issue in Lightning Network is an issue.
But I see that more than the whole balance sheet thing, because I still like I'm not a big believer in the countries buying Bitcoin and the companies buying Bitcoin that much, but I do see them adopting something like, I mean, if you go on Lightning Network, you have to have Bitcoin. So disregard what I just said, but yeah, that's the angle I see. These banks becoming Lightning companies.
Right. Yeah, I think MasterCard and Visa have already like done a lot in the space, right? I mean, they've been around for a good while now. And now
Yeah,
I
imagine,
think we had even the banks like Bank of America, is that BOFA, right?
Both
BOFA these nuts. But like they literally loaded up on MicroStrategy stock. So, but yeah, that's obviously not getting into like the Lightning game. Yeah, I don't know. I'm very bad at these kind of predictions.
like what if
It's hard to
you know,
predict.
because these credit companies, these credit card companies, to undercut, they had to charge high percentage because of chargebacks, all these kinds of risks. What if like I don't know, somebody wants to beat MasterCard or Discover, and I can see Strike being like something like that if they grow market share. But what if Cash App starts making their payments very, very cheap and you can pay anywhere, whereas like with certain companies you can't because Cash App has adopted Lightning. Who knows? But if I had to make a far out prediction, that'd be that.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's the play, right? Is to gain market share over your app, and then people use your Lightning node as they go in and out, and that's where you gain a commission off those fees, right? And if you can get even a percentage of the market share that Visa MasterCard have, and then you're making those fees that are, instead of being 3%, they're 0.1%, you're still making a lot of money as a company. So I think that seems like the route that something like Strike would want to take, but it's tough. You got to be able to make it through bear markets to be able to do that.
And it seems like the regulation thing is a bigger hindrance to strike than making it to the bear market or anything. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
when you touch in dollars and other currencies, the regulation is just so burdensome that it requires so much capital to even get started.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's the
Honestly, that
reason
would be
why.
my. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm saying that that's the reason why they're not in Europe yet. Like that meme, they're not in Europe for that
In
reason.
Europe.
Regulation. It's the
Yeah.
only wall they have. Like the platform is ready to start in Europe, but they can't as they are structured right now.
So what do
I
you
think
guys
on the
imagine being
background,
the? Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I think it answers your question, at least from my perspective. I think one of the big stories unfolding on the background is that like nation state battle that's going on right now about, you know, can other countries do international trade in energy and, you know, outside of the dollar? You literally have the president of Brazil right now, you know, in Shanghai asking this question out loud, you know, like, why do we have to trade in the dollar? We had the MBS, you know, I don't know if you call him like a president or a dictator or whatever in Saudi Arabia. You know, he literally said we're not interested in pleasing the United States anymore. You know, and 10 days later, the United States sends like a nuclear submarine
in their
into
waters.
Ooh.
into the Middle Eastern waters. You know,
Yeah.
so you have China and Russia that they're doing like their first energy trades now in the yuan. You know, so this is such a massive break from the last 60 or 60 odd years or whatever that and it seems to be unfolding quite quickly. I don't think they're going to be putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet anytime soon. I think that probably be gold first or whatever. But there is like this storm brewing on the background, and I don't know how it's going to impact us in the long run, you know, or the medium term. So.
It makes people think about a different an alternative to the dollar. But let's just say, what do they? I think they call it a brick CBDC, whatever. But like, you're still gonna have to trust these countries, you know. And eventually, they're gonna end up to the same spot where they have like whether it's China or Russia or maybe a combination of whatever, become the person you have to trust in. And so I think I forgot where I heard this from. I heard this a couple years ago, but Bitcoin's gonna win not because it's somebody's first choice, but it's because it's everybody's second best choice. Where I don't have to trust that, oh yeah, the gold you hold in London is there. The gold you hold in Switzerland is there. Like ideally, you use my currency, but you don't want to use my currency. So maybe the second best option for everybody, the second best option for everybody is Bitcoin.
Anyway,
No, I totally agree. Yellow thinks I just farted for some reason.
yeah, you close the mic for a second, and then you open it
Because I'm
again.
sniffling right now.
Yeah.
That's why I got the sniffles. Yellow.
Okay, so why
No
it's
one wants to
worse
hear you.
that?
No one wants to hear me
Why is that
sniffle.
worse or better than farting? Farting is natural too. Just say you farted.
I didn't. I would tell you if I farted. Yellow.
Anyway, okay, whatever.
All right, but going back to what Richard was saying, first of all, I totally agree
Cool.
because I think that Bitcoin it's neutral and no one can control it because no one can control it. Then that's what makes it such an ideal asset to deal and do trades in and do money in transactions because no one can debase your money, no one can steal your money, and I think that's one of the greatest things about Bitcoin in general is that it's this game theory that we always talk about, right? It's a big macro thing, but whatever. But in all honesty, it is like if money is a game and you're looking around the world and you go, okay, well, we can't trust the dollar because they, you know, the United States, they might turn our dollars off. We're not sure if we can trust, you know, China or Russia because we don't know if we can trust them either for whatever reasons. Well, who can we trust? And then you go down the line, you go, we can't trust anybody. So that's where Bitcoin comes into play. Is it's that money that's trustless and it doesn't need anyone. And so I think
And it
that's
doesn't move. You've got like this pillar of 21 million standing there in an ever expanding world of expanding fiat, expanding CBDCs, expanding gold supply. You know, like Jeff Book talks about more surfaces, bigger economies. but the 21 million stays there. So with time, the price always goes up, and that is the one thing people will be able to trust on. And right now they're just thinking, oh, it goes up and down, but people are waking up. This is like, they know it's not the first time Bitcoin's done it. Like some people are still looking at like, oh, this is one giant bubble to 69K and now it's dead. No, but I think more and more people know that it did this before, and it did it also before that. And if it keeps doing this, then it's going to be too hard to ignore, and it's going to build that trust. That's how I see it, anyway. What is going to kill Bitcoin, Richard?
Okay. If I had I've the only flood I have is the physical internet infrastructure. I remember when I was in Hawaii, I was stationed in Hawaii. I left on deployment. I came back and I had to restart the internet. And to use the internet, I had to buy. They forced me to buy this dongle where they connected to my modem, and it was my own modem, my own personal modem. But they forced me to use this cable to use the internet. The internet service provider. Unless I start up my own internet service provider, I go through an ISP. And so they say you have to buy this thing to use the internet. And so if I were to flood Bitcoin, I think physical internet, like the centralization, I guess you would say, on these ISPs would be the biggest choke point, because I had to use their own, like this. It's like a 3 to 4 inch cable connector that connected to the coax cable, and if that would be my biggest flood, the physical internet infrastructure.
Right. So I realized, like, I'm in Colombia right now, and I'm not technical enough to know how this exactly works. I know when you run a node, you could run it over Tor, right? So, but if I try to visit like a poker website, it's blocked. So all Colombians are not allowed to visit any poker websites, apparently. So I guess the government does have these kind of tools where they can like block, I don't know, services. And China is also known for doing this. But do I do any? I know Sean probably doesn't know either. I don't know. I'm not sure about Yellow, but like when you run a node, can internet services providers block that specifically without turning down the internet for everything? Because I don't see it as a viable option.
They can block it, but very, very easily you can bypass it, I think.
Right? Unless they turn off the internet completely, right? Which they're not going to do, because then becomes
then they don't make money. That's their whole job, is to provide internet.
They can do a lot of stuff to stop a certain protocol that they specified in their so-called wall, but very easily, like the guys in Hong Kong showed that you can bypass that by the same kind of infrastructure, like the internet itself, but also like we can use now satellites to
we have the blockchain satellite.
The blockchain, like there's no problem with that. So
all right, so your FUD has been busted, Richard.
Okay. Let me say the FUD is it'll slow down Bitcoin. It won't kill Bitcoin.
No,
I don't think Bitcoin.
Marcus is out here asking you a question.
No. Richard's concern is a valid one.
Yeah,
like it doesn't take much to provide like that kind of obstacle, like that kind of like a control. Like all it takes is like a bunch of corrupt bad guys behind closed doors in some like Washington room to decide, we're gonna make this kind of law now, and gonna have that and that and that and that in order for you to perform and be in the free so-called market. But if you don't have those checks, you're not allowed.
Yeah, so, most people will comply. That's the thing, is most people, if they say, this is illegal, then most people will just comply, right? Like okay, well, then if you're a no coiner, you're not gonna be like, well, why am I gonna run a node, or why would I try to go a roundabout way to buy a Bitcoin if it's illegal for me to buy Bitcoin in this country? So I think for a lot of people, stop them, because instead of going down the rabbit hole, there's some people that'll be like, okay, well, if they're telling me I can't, I want to know why. I'm going to study this more. but the majority of people will just comply and just not do it.
And it's all about that control, like the different narratives for basically the same things are as they are, because in some aspect they control it, in another aspect they don't. Like they control data centers. Data centers don't like emit any CO2 for that, because they control it. Like we have here like Bitcoin mining. Oh, like those, they're very polluting. Although they're basically the same thing.
Yes.
Different narratives for the one and the second, because the one they control, the other not so much.
That's why I say we don't call them miners, just call them computers. They want to ban data centers. Got it. You know, just reframe it.
It's true. I mean,
have you guys watched Atlas Shrugged, the movie?
I've read the book. I haven't watched the movie.
Oh,
I love
there's
it.
a book as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when they say, yeah, it's against the Fair Share Act, you know, so they create like narratives about the speculators are evil and
the collective good.
Now we're gonna have to confiscate your stuff. They literally did it, like the old 6102, everybody knows, of course, but if you read up about it, it's like, yeah, you have to pay like a $10,000 fine or up to 10 years in prison. And back then in 1930, $10,000 wasn't the $10,000 today. That's like getting like a $500,000 fine and 10 years in jail, you know, if you don't hand in your gold. I mean, imagine we wake up one day and on the news, you know, there you have Biden and the FBI and Fauci and the IMF and everybody saying, you know, like, if you're holding Bitcoin, you're going to go to jail for 10 years. I mean,
you're like a terrorist, basically.
Yeah.
You know, one of my favorite lines of that book is, you get blackmailed for your virtues and not your vices. And I recommend everybody read that book, or at least the audio book. That's what I did. It's fucking amazing.
That book is long. I bought that book over the summer. I didn't read it.
Yeah.
I need to.
Do the audiobook. The audiobook's a lot more doable.
Yeah.
It's like 1,000 plus, it's like 60-hour audiobook. So you just break it down.
Yeah.
And you just do that.
Yeah, it's like it's over, I think it's over 1,000 pages. I was like, oh my gosh, this book's huge. I didn't know that.
But it's beautiful, man.
That's a lot of words.
Like, a lot of libertarians.
If I read one page every day, I would be half of the book now and more.
You should read one page of Atlas Shrugged from here on out during Don't Stop Believing Spaces.
Yeah. I'll be like more in the half and more a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not that big.
Maybe you can read, maybe Yellow can read like one page during the Don't Stop Believing Spaces for its listeners.
You know what? I'll take any material I need because I don't have anything more, guys. I really do. I'm starting repeating myself now. Doing all this bit.
The VIP sections hurt all your material. That's the problem. Is you need people to show up like once every 2 or 3 days.
Dude, I even did a bit where I pretended I hit my head.
Yes,
and I did the space twice because I had a concussion. I was like mumbling and everything.
Yeah.
Like
it was a cry for help.
That was a good one, actually. I mean, they're all good, but I like that one a lot. That was there.
Anyway.
Yeah. All right. We got two more questions before we wrap up that we always like to ask. One of them you already answered from Marcus. Another question is you kind of already answered this a little earlier, but it's just
Antonopoulos.
Yeah, like was there something in specific that you read or listened to that really like blew your mind, that made you swallow the orange pill? Or since I already said the ones that really orange pill me was the Antonopoulos and the Bitcoin Standard, I'll tell you one I read recently that blew my mind. It's by Nick Szabo. This is written before Bitcoin. It's called A Measurement of Sacrifice. And he talks about how time and the fungibility of time became so fungible to the point where we could trade minutes with each other today. Like I could give you an Uber ride for 15 minutes and I charge you a price. And he talks about the evolution of
time, whether it came from the sun to the bells to mechanical clocks and sand glasses or hourglasses, and even stuff like that. They were running their own hourglass nodes back in the day to verify the mechanical clock, because these are normal people that couldn't afford a mechanical clock, but they can create a cheap node, an hourglass, and then to verify these people online to them. And so, like, reading this by Nick Szabo when I was writing a song called The Timekeeper, it fucking blew my mind. And this is an old one. It's called A Measurement of Sacrifice, and basically how time became fungible over the centuries, and how that allowed for more human coordination and cooperation. And so, a recent, I guess that is one of the best pieces I've read of Bitcoin. That's in relation to Bitcoin.
Is Nick Szabo
Awesome.
Satoshi?
I hope not.
I hope not. Yeah, hopefully we don't know.
He was definitely on
Exactly.
the mailing list.
Yeah, but yeah, read that. That one's freaking amazing. So if you're already orange pilled or not, read The Measurement of Sacrifice by Nick Szabo.
Isn't it amazing? Like, before I knew about Bitcoin, I had no idea about any cypherpunks. I had no idea who, like, a guy like Nick Szabo was. You know, some of these people that were just building, and then when you go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, it just takes you down these other rabbit holes too, of like these people that were just trying to create things for freedom or trying to build things using cryptography that, you know, governments couldn't touch. It's just kind of crazy to me how many rabbit holes Bitcoin takes you down.
Yeah, it's like a gigantic contrast to school. I remember school just bored me, and it made me feel like I was not that great, or it made me feel like learning wasn't that great. But ever since Bitcoin, I learned that learning is very enriching and very awesome. And so, yeah, it's this gigantic contrast to the legacy school system.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, last question. How do you see a Bitcoin standard playing out?
How do I see, like, how does hyper Bitcoinization come about?
Yeah.
If you see it coming about at all. I mean,
I do see it coming about because yeah, I do. And I guess I for this I adopt the Bitcoin standard view, just as more and more the Austrian perspective, and more people save in Bitcoin, and the price or the amount of capital stored or savings stored in Bitcoin grows. I just think that's how it does, and that happens over time. And in my prediction, if we go like centuries or even a millennia out, we're gonna look back and this whole process was the suddenly process. You know what I mean? Right now, it feels like a gradually then suddenly moment, but I genuinely believe when we look back in human history, this Bitcoin moment is gonna be like, man, that happened so fucking sudden.
wow, I love that
But
perspective. Though.
I just
Good.
adopt
Yeah.
the Austrian perspective as savings, and people store more of their time and energy in Bitcoin. It takes over.
I mean, even think about like
End it.
I love it, man. Yeah. Hey, drop the mic right there, dude.
Gonna add some After Effects.
Yeah. Yellow's got the Bitcoin. Oh, there we go. Make it rain.
I think that's a really profound point there, Richard. If you say, you know, the slowly and then suddenly, it feels slowly as we're in it, right? But if you're looking at it like when it's 20, anyway, out in the future and you look back, it's gonna probably look like a very sudden moment, and you know, something you can pretty much point at.
Yeah. Exactly. At least that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, the coming about of smartphones or social media, how fast that came about, right? It's like,
and there wasn't a moment.
Yeah, it's hard
happened.
to it's hard to
there's no
pinpoint
moment.
like, oh, this day or that day, right? Like, it's hard to say what day that it just crossed that Rubicon. I agree. I think it's gonna happen with Bitcoin.
23rd of December.
It was the 23rd of December. 23rd December.
The prophecy
Has been fulfilled.
Prophecy.
It has definitely been fulfilled. Don't question Yellow's prophecies.
We have this other little, and that will be like my final thing, Richard. We have this little running joke on the show that, you know, engineers are more likely to get Bitcoin first, because when you have like a technical view at stuff and you understand the moving parts of Bitcoin, then, you know, you kind of see that, hey, these technical parts, they're tied to physics, you know, when you think about proof of work. And there's no way of breaking this, right? And my summary of this is really bad still, so I'm not going to try to summarize it. But the joke is, you kind of touched up on this at the beginning of the show. Like, you do have a little bit of an engineering background, you know, when you approach your music production from an engineering background. So
Yeah.
you've clearly read a lot. You know, I don't know how much you read on average, but you mentioned a couple of times that you read a lot. That's what I love about the Bitcoin space. You know, it's yeah, it's a lot of bright minds that read a lot and dig down into the fundamentals of stuff. And yeah, that's something that gives me a lot of confidence time and time again. So yeah, I really enjoyed this show, man. Thanks for coming on, and yeah, I wish we could do this more often. And
Thank all of you.
yeah, look forward to seeing you on the other side. But these are not the final words, because Sean does the closing. So pick the
Yellow. Well, Yellow, you got any final words as well?
Nah, just go stack some sats every now and then. We are where we are now. Like every month now, the sats you're gonna be getting, I think, gonna be get fewer and fewer. So we'll get them.
We'll get them. All right. Thanks, Richard. Give everyone a handoff where they can find you. Anything that you're working on, just let people know how they can find you and get a hold of you, or send some sats your way.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at ReelRichard. It's real with 2 E's. And then I'm on Nostr. I don't even know how to shill that, but it's the same at or /npub. I don't know how it works. But yeah, you can find me there. And yeah, that's all I have. And I iterate what Yellow just said. Stay humble, stack sats, consume less than you produce, and yeah, we all right.
Awesome.
Yeah, make some great content, get some other people excited. Love your work, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. And for everyone else who's listening, remember we have the Meme Factory podcast. We go live every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And remember, what you see here, what you hear here, when you leave here, don't just let it stay here. Please share, like, subscribe. A big shout out to BTC Moon Guy. You're always in the comments. Big shout out to Vake in Fountain. And big shout out to Yellow for coming on today. Very impromptu. Thanks, bro. And ReelRichard. As for Bitcoiner's Guide episode 50 from Mr. ReelRichard, Mr. Yellow, Mr. Plan Marcus, and Big Sean Harris, we're over and out. Peace.